and welcome to Talking Miles. I'm so glad you are here with us today. We have something, well, honestly, we have something pretty special to get into.
We really do. And it's good to be here. Special is probably the right word. It's also a little bit haunting, a little bit terrifying, and strangely hopeful all at the same time.
That's the perfect way to put it. Usually we're here parsing through, a stack of articles, maybe a white paper or two, trying to make sense of a specific industry trend. But today we're looking at a conversation.
Just a single conversation.
Exactly. A sprawling, messy late night chat that took place, or rather, is dated to take place on February 18th, 2026.
Right. And for context, that date is so crucial. February 2026.
Yeah.
We're looking at a source that captures a moment in time where the world feels like it's balancing on a knife's edge.
The conversation is between a human named Ara and an AI. And look, I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, great, another tech chat. But just hold on, because this isn't just about code.
Not at all. Not even close.
This conversation starts in the most intimate place possible. It starts inside our own heads, with the architecture of dreams. It wanders through the smell of petrol in our grandmothers. And then,
Then it slams right into what Elon Musk is calling the supersonic tsunami of artificial intelligence and the collapse of, well, everything we understand about work.
it really covers the full spectrum, doesn't it? From our most internal world, our DNA, our subconscious, to this massive external revolution that threatens to upend the entire global economy.
That's the journey.
So our mission today is to explore that connection. We want to see how our internal personal worlds connect to this massive external shift. We have the chat logs, we have a summarized brief of the whole conversation, and we even have some image descriptions that capture specific anecdotes. So are you ready to get weird?
Let's get weird. I'm ready.
Okay, let's start where they started. The thing that happens when we close our eyes. Dreams. Now, looking at the logs, Ara starts by recounting a dream. And they pitch a theory that I think I think most of us have secretly entertained at some point.
Oh, for sure. The multiverse leak theory.
Exactly.
Okay.
Era literally asks the AI, when I dream about a house I've never been to or a person I've never met, am I actually seeing through the eyes of a variant of myself in a parallel timeline?
It's such a seductive idea, isn't it? I mean, you wake up from a dream where you are, I don't know, a secret agent in 1970s Berlin, and you want to believe that's real.
You want it to be real.
You do.
Yeah.
That somewhere, that version of you exists. It gives the dream meaning. It validates the whole experience.
Right, because otherwise it's just random noise from your brain. But if it's a leak, then it's significant. It's a clue.
It's a romantic thought. But in this chat, the consensus and the source material here is very, very firm on this, is that we need to reject that idea. The source describes the brain not as a portal, but as a thief.
A thief. I like that. It's got a bit of an edge to it.
It does. Or another metaphor they use is a massive backstage crew. Think about it. All day long, your brain is just absorbing everything. It takes, in the movie you watched last week, the weird phrase you overheard at the coffee shop, the face of a coworker you barely even talked to.
All these little fragments of data.
Exactly. And then when you go to sleep, it doesn't just replay those things. That would be boring. It remixes them.
It's the remix culture of the subconscious.
Precisely. And the source gives this hilarious but really specific example that I think perfectly illustrates the mechanism. So imagine you have a coworker. In real life, maybe this person just interrupts people a lot. That's their one defining trait. They're mildly annoying.
Okay, yeah. We all have that coworker. The one who just can't wait for you to finish a single sentence.
We do. But your brain, the thief, it takes that one trait, the interrupting, and it decides to write a script. It turns that coworker into a full-blown villain. But it doesn't stop there.
Right, this is the best part.
It gives him a British accent, it puts him in a tuxedo, it places him in a dramatic setting, maybe a cliffside lair overlooking a stormy sea.
So my brain is basically a disgruntled screenwriter trying to make my boring day job more interesting after hours.
In a way, yes. But what's really wild, and Era points this out in the logs, is the depth of the character creation. These aren't just, cardboard cutouts. Era talks about meeting full-on, three-dimensional strangers in dreams.
And these people can argue with you. They can make choices that genuinely surprise you.
That's the part that always gets me. If I'm generating this dream from my own brain, how can a character in that dream surprise me? I mean, I should know what they're going to say, right? I wrote the line.
It feels like a paradox.
It does. But the source calls this predictive dissociation. Your mind is pulling from so many different sources, books you've loved, characters you've hated, people you've met, that it creates a simulation so complex it feels separate from you. It's pattern matching on steroids.
So it's basically running a little local large language model right inside my head.
That's a great modern analogy for it. It's a generative adversarial network almost. One part of your brain generates the story, the characters, the dialogue, and another part of your brain experiences it as real-time input.
And the generator has this massive library of everything I've ever seen or heard.
Everything. So the characters feel incredibly three-dimensional. They have distinct laughs, specific argumentative styles, little tics. Your brain creates a fully realized person just to annoy you for 10 minutes of REM sleep.
That's an incredible amount of processing power for something so fleeting.
It is. And speaking of which, there's another detail here that I found really relatable, the concept of the dream self. The source mentions that dream you is often significantly braver than real you.
Oh, 100%. I've
Mhm.
noticed this. In real life, I avoid confrontation like the plague. In my dreams, I'm jumping off buildings, I'm yelling at the villain, I'm starting revolutions.
And there's a very logical, biological reason for that which the chat explores. In the waking world, we are bound by consequences. Social anxiety, physical pain, long-term repercussions.
Right, we have a prefrontal cortex that's constantly acting as a brake pedal. Don't say that, you'll get fired. Don't do that, you'll get hurt.
Exactly. And in the dream,
The brakes are cut.
the brakes are totally cut. The prefrontal cortex is largely downregulated during REM sleep. So Ara notes that in dreams, you will yell at that British villain. You will jump off a cliff to escape because the part of your brain that screams, you will die, or this will be awkward tomorrow, is just offline.
So, dreamy isn't necessarily a better version of me, it's just an uninhibited version, the raw data.
Exactly. The dream you is the version of you without the constant nagging fear of consequences.
But then it gets even trippier. We have to talk about the illusion of continuity because Eris shares this story about waking up with these vivid memories of a 2-year project.
This is one of the most disorienting and, I think, profound things about dreaming. Ari describes waking up and feeling the literal physical weight of a history that never happened.
Like in the dream, they had an old friend they'd known for years.
For years, they had inside jokes, they had shared memories, they had worked on a massive, stressful project together for 2 whole years.
And the feeling is real. You wake up and you genuinely miss that friend. You feel the stress of that project deadline, even though it doesn't exist.
It never existed.
Yeah.
And the AI in the chat, the expert in this source material, uses this fantastic metaphor. It calls the mind a sneaky librarian.
A sneaky librarian. I'm picturing someone shushing me while completely rearranging the biography section to mess with me.
It's kind of like that. It's more like the librarian is grabbing entire shelves from the real-life section shelves labeled How Deep Friendship Feels, the grind of a long-term project, shared history, and then, while you're asleep, it physically moves them over to the dream continuity shelf.
It files them under a new fake heading.
Files them under history. So your brain presents this new character and says, check the records. The feeling of deep connection is right here. Yes, you have known this person for years. It attaches real chemical feelings of attachment and history to a completely fake avatar.
That is total gaslighting. My own brain is gaslighting me.
It absolutely is. And that's why the feeling lingers when you wake up. Your conscious mind knows it was a dream, but your limbic system, your emotional core, is still recovering from the loss of a dear long-term friend.
Era mentions keeping a dream book to track all this stuff, which honestly sounds like a great way to drive yourself a little bit crazy, but also a great way to see just how creative you are.
Well, it's about analyzing the data, right? Era is just amazed by the complexity. How does the brain invent a person who knows how to be a sarcastic, world-weary detective? Where does that come from?
Or a patient grandmother who fixes everything with a specific kind of tea. You can't learn that in a textbook. That's just raw, synthesized creativity. It's a portfolio of people you could have been, or, an amalgam of people you've observed.
And before we move on from dreams, we should probably briefly touch on the fringe theories they mention. Because even though the source leans so heavily on the neuroscience, the whole remixing yesterday's junk theory, they do admit there's a little sliver of what if.
Ah, the quantum consciousness idea.
Right. The chat acknowledges it as a fringe idea with zero proof. Let's be clear about that. But the idea is that maybe, just maybe, consciousness isn't locked entirely inside the skull.
That the brain is more of an antenna than a generator.
Exactly. And in that model, maybe those dreams really are echoes from parallel selves. The source basically says, look, science says no. The evidence points to the thief in the brain model, but it's a cool story.
And sometimes, late at night, a cool story is all you need. But speaking of stories and things that feel ancient, let's move from the brain to the blood. This transition in the conversation was seamless.
It really was. This brings us to section 2 of our deep dive. Echoes in the blood, DNA and ancestry.
This part of the conversation really stuck with me. It starts with something so visceral, so specific. The smell of petrol.
It's such a specific detail. Ira talks about being at gas stations or seeing people doing a paint job and getting hit with that sharp, oily whiff of petrol or kerosene. And instead of hating it, which most people do, right? They find it acrid or toxic. Ira loves it.
Describes it as a rush.
A rush. And I think a lot of people have that weird smell they secretly like. For me, it's old books. For others, it's Sharpies or wet concrete. But for Ara, there's a twist.
The twist is the grandmother.
The twist is the grandmother. Ara remembers talking to their grandmother years ago, and she offhandedly mentioned she loved the exact same smell.
That's a wild coincidence. So the question becomes, did Ara inherit a memory? Is there a ghost in the genes?
This is where we have to balance the science with the poetry of the idea. The source is very, very clear on the scientific reality. DNA is not a hard drive for video files.
Right. It's not storing a little movie of your great-grandfather's life.
No, you cannot inherit a specific visual memory of your great-grandfather hiding from a wolf in a forest. That scene, the neurons holding that image, they die with the person. The source is firm on that.
So I can't actually remember my grandmother's specific day at the gas station?
You can't. DNA handles the hardware. It builds your nose shape, your eye color, your adrenaline response system. It's the blueprint for the machine. However,
Right.
and this is a huge however, there is nuance.
Okay.
The source suggests that DNA passes down patterns.
Patterns. This touches on epigenetics, right?
Yeah.
Where experiences can change how genes are expressed.
Exactly. Think of your genes like a giant sound mixing board with millions of volume knobs. An experience your ancestor had, surviving a famine, living through a war, can't change the knobs themselves, but it turns some of them up and some of them down.
And those settings can get passed on?
Those settings can get passed on. So if your ancestors survived a high-threat environment, they might pass down a volume knob for stress that is turned all the way up. You inherit the anxiety, not the specific memory of the war.
Okay, so applying that to the petrol smell.
If Era's grandmother, for whatever reason, associated the smell of kerosene or petrol with something good, maybe warmth from a heater in a cold winter, or the safety of her father's workshop, or the excitement of travel, that positive association, that chemical safe or good signal in her brain,
Could have flipped a switch?
it could have created an epigenetic marker, a biological preference.
Hmm.
So the source argues that it's not remembering what happened to the ancestor, it's remembering what mattered to them.
Wow. So the rush Ara feels at the smell of petrol isn't a memory of a specific event. It is an emotional echo.
An emotional echo. It's a feeling passed down through generations that says, this is good, this is safe, or at least, this is significant.
That is almost more beautiful than a video memory. It's like a feeling that transcends a single lifetime. It's a family heirloom you can't see.
The source puts it so beautifully. After explaining all this, it just says to Era, you're not crazy, you're just listening to your blood.
Listening to your blood. Wow. And they don't stop there, do they? They connect this even further, right? They zoom all the way out to the cosmos.
They do. It's this beautiful, expansive moment in the conversation. If we have these echoes in our blood, and our blood is made of carbon, and the carbon was forged in the heart of a dying star, well, the conversation touches on the Big Bang.
The idea that we are literally stardust, that we are the universe witnessing itself.
It's that deep feeling of connection, whether it's to your grandmother through the smell of petrol or to the stars through the atoms in your body. It's a way of making you feel less alone, less random.
And that sense of wonder, that ability to feel connected, that is actually a perfect transition to the next topic in their chat, because the source argues that this magic, this ability to feel so deeply, comes at a price.
The price of our own intelligence, or rather the limit of it.
Yes. This is section 3 of the deep dive, the limits of human intelligence. And this starts with another amazing anecdote from Era.
The motion graphics analogy.
It's a story that I think really hit home for me and probably for anyone who's ever learned a technical skill.
It's a bit of a tragic little story, really. Ara talks about learning motion graphics and VFX software, After Effects, Nuke, all that stuff. They learned how the sausage is made. Green screens, compositing, lighting rigs, CGI.
Yeah, and it completely ruined movies for them.
Completely.
Yeah.
Instead of watching the story and feeling the emotion, Ara started watching the edges of the screen, checking for bad masking, analyzing the lighting, critiquing the particle effects. The magic was gone because the analysis took over.
I think we've all felt a version of that. Once you know how a magic trick works, you can never be amazed by it in the same way again. You just see the mechanics.
And this leads to this massive philosophical pivot in their conversation. They ask,
Right.
what if humans were smarter? Not just a little smarter. What if we had an IQ of 1,000?
God mode intelligence, as they call it.
Right. And we tend to assume that smarter is always better. But the source argues that if we had that level of processing power, we would be just like Ara watching that movie. We would see every gear in the universe.
So imagine standing at the altar at your own wedding.
Exactly. If you had God mode intelligence, you wouldn't just see the person you love. You would see the micro expressions on their face indicating a flicker of doubt. You would see the mathematical probability of your marriage failing based on current socioeconomic data. You would understand on a cellular level the biological decay happening in your partner's cells.
You'd see the code behind the illusion.
And you would stop crying at weddings. You would stop falling in love. The source's argument is that if you know everything, you feel nothing. The mystery, the not knowing, is a prerequisite for emotion.
So biology put a cap on us for a reason. It's a feature, not a bug.
Well, the source gets into the biological reality of it. Why does human IQ rarely, if ever, exceed, say, 228 or 230?
They bring up Marilyn Vos Savant, right, as the record holder.
Yes, she's cited as having one of the highest verified metrics, around 228. But why aren't there people with an IQ of 500 or 5,000? The source explains it's a series of evolutionary constraints. Neurons are chemically slow compared to silicon. The brain consumes a massive amount of energy, about 20% of our caloric intake just to keep the lights on.
So if we were that much smarter, we'd either starve or our heads would overheat.
Or we'd need heads so big we couldn't be born. But more importantly, from a survival standpoint, evolution didn't need us to be God mode smart. It just needed us to be smart enough to build a fire, throw a spear, cooperate in a tribe, and not get eaten by lions.
We are smart apes, not gods. That's the level we were built for.
That's it. And the verdict in the chat is that an IQ of roughly 130, or even just average human intelligence, is enough. It is enough to solve complex problems, but it's also limited enough to let us be swept away by love, to enjoy the smell of rain, and to remember our grandmothers with that sense of mysterious wonder.
So we are smart enough to understand the universe, but just dumb enough to still be amazed by it.
That is the sweet spot. Ignorance isn't just bliss. In this model, ignorance is the friction that allows for the spark of emotion.
And this is where the tone of the conversation just completely shifts. It gets dark and it gets fast. What happens when we build something that doesn't have those biological limits, something that is God mode smart?
Something that doesn't need to eat and doesn't care about the smell of rain or the memory of a grandmother.
And here we go, section 4, the shift to reality, the AI tsunami.
We are leaving the internal world of dreams and blood now. We are waking up to the cold, hard reality of February 2026. And the forecast is, well, it's terrifying.
Supersonic tsunami. That's the phrase from Elon Musk that's quoted in the source. This isn't a gentle tide coming in. It is a wall of water moving faster than the speed of sound.
And the source material points to a specific event as a focal point for this anxiety, the India AI Summit in Delhi. It seems to be this gathering where the reality of the situation is hitting everyone at once.
The mood is urgent. The timeline they're discussing is brutal. Ara points out the sheer shock of the acceleration. 1 year ago, these models couldn't write a coherent sentence. Now, in early 2026, they are editing feature films.
That speed is what's panicking people. It's not the change itself, it's the velocity of the change. The source says the prediction circulating at that summit is that AI will be smarter than any single human by the end of the year.
Or next year, at the latest. The window is just slamming shut. And we have to look at the economic fallout they discuss. The numbers in the source are stark.
40%. That's the number that just jumps off the page. 40% of global roles are considered exposed to AI automation.
And exposed is such a polite corporate way of saying at risk of becoming obsolete.
It is. And look at the fear index they cite. Employee fear, people worried about their jobs being replaced, jumped from 28% in 2024 to 40% by the time of this chat in early 2026. People on the ground can feel the tsunami coming.
And it's not just the jobs we were always told would go. It's not just truck drivers or factory workers. The source lists lawyers drafting contracts, business analysts modeling spreadsheets, creative writers.
And specifically, Ara mentions voiceover artists.
Oof. That hits a little close to home for us here on Talkin' Mile.
It really does. But you have to think about it. If an AI can generate a perfect human voice with perfect inflection in any language for any script instantly, Why would a company hire a human?
It's the ultimate efficiency.
The creative roles are being hit first, which is the complete opposite of what we were promised for decades.
Yeah.
We were all told AI would do the boring stuff, do the dishes, we could all paint and write poetry. Instead, the AI is painting and writing poetry, and we're all still doing the dishes.
And the big prediction they cite, by 2030, just 4 years after this conversation, 375 million people might need entirely new lives. Not just new jobs, new careers, a complete reinvention.
That is a staggering number. It's more than the entire population of the United States. And the source makes a really important point to distinguish between the corporate hype and the on-the-ground reality.
Right, because big tech companies love to hype this stuff up to get investment money. Our model is the best. It can do anything.
Of course, they are dumping billions into data centers. They're all racing to catch the next unicorn. So yes, some of the marketing claims are exaggerated for investors. But the fallout, the job losses, that fallout is real.
The source cites a survey saying 11% of creative roles were already reported as axed in company surveys at that time.
Exactly. So even if the tech is only half as good as the CEOs claim, the economic impact is already fully present. Corporations are betting the farm on this. They aren't going to turn back now.
So what do we do? Do we just panic? Section 5 of the chat seems to be all about how we handle this. Fear, adaptation, and the future.
The conversation in the source turns to the government response. And the picture it paints is mixed, to be charitable.
Let's break it down. The EU, what are they doing in early 2026?
The EU is doing what the EU does. They're rolling out phased rules. They're trying to create regulations and scrutiny for high-risk AI. It's slow, it's bureaucratic. It's the AI Act approach, trying to put safety rails on a bullet train.
And the US?
Patchy. That's the exact word the source uses. The feds are arguing about what to do, so individual states are jumping in to try and regulate it on their own. It's a chaotic mess. It's the Wild West approach.
And what about India, where that summit was held?
India's approach is interesting. The source says they are focusing on upskilling, not breaks. They aren't trying to stop the AI. They are trying to race to teach their massive population how to use it, to become AI-powered.
But the source, ERA and the AI, they argue that none of these approaches are enough. If 40% of jobs vanish, you can't just upskill everyone into new ones that don't exist yet.
Exactly. They argue for a phased rollout. You can't just drop a supersonic tsunami on society and tell everyone to learn how to swim. They suggest maybe capping development in certain risky fields until society can catch up. And inevitably, the conversation turns to UBI.
Universal basic income.
Or universal basic something, as they put it. Because if robots and AI do everything, if they take the law, the coding, the writing, the analysis, the driving, the manufacturing, then money as we know it might become irrelevant. Or at least the fundamental link between work and survival has to be broken.
Elon Musk calls it work optional, which sounds amazing, like a utopia, until you realize that for most of human history, our work has been our purpose, our identity.
That is the core danger they identify. It isn't just, will we eat? It's, will we matter? Will we have a reason to get out of bed?
But we have been at transformative moments like this before, right? The source brings up the Luddites.
It does. And it's a crucial piece of historical context. We use Luddite as an insult now to mean someone who just hates technology for no reason. But the original Luddites were highly skilled textile workers in the 19th century.
And when the automated power looms came,
They smashed them. They burned down the factories. They weren't stupid. They were terrified, and rightly so, of losing their livelihoods.
and they did lose their livelihoods.
They did. The individual weavers were wiped out. But society as a whole adapted. We got cheaper clothes. The economy eventually grew in new directions. New jobs were created that no one could have imagined.
So history shows we smashed looms then, and we might smash servers now.
We might, the source says. History says we will panic. And that fear is a powerful, often destructive driver. But, and here's the hopeful pivot, the silver lining fear is also an inventor.
We invented cities because we feared famine and chaos. We invented tools because we feared lions.
Exactly. Fear forces innovation. The source speculates we might invent entirely new roles we can't even imagine yet. They throw out these, almost sci-fi sounding ideas like dream curator or human AI mediator.
Dream curator. I kind of like that. Hello, I'm here to organize your recurring British villain nightmares into a coherent narrative.
It sounds silly now, but in 1920, the job title, social media manager or cloud architect, would have sounded like complete nonsense. We adapt. We find new ways to be useful.
So the real danger isn't extinction. It's not that we won't survive. The danger is numbness.
But the danger is that we lose the human spark in the transition. The danger is that we survive, but we stop feeling. We let the AI write our emails, then our love letters, then our eulogies, until there's nothing left of us.
Which brings us to the very end of their conversation, the miracle.
This is how they synthesize the whole sprawling late-night deep dive. They bring it all back together. We have this stark contrast. The AI tsunami on one side, cold, logical, fast, supersonic. And on the other side, we have the petrol smell, the grandmother, the dreams, the messy, weird human stuff.
And the conclusion they reach is, I think, profoundly hopeful. They say AI might take the grind. It might take the analysis. It might take all the 1,000 IQ tasks we were never built for anyway.
But what is left for us?
What's left is the messy part, the hopeful part, the scared part. The source defines the miracle not as the stars or the code or the AI. The miracle is simply being here, breathing, still scared, still alive.
It's the ability to dream the ancestors even while the algorithms take over the work.
Precisely. The AI can write the script, but it can't feel the smell of petrol. It can't wake up with the ghost of a memory missing a friend who never existed. That specific, beautiful heartbreak, that is exclusively ours.
That is beautiful. So what's left is our vulnerability.
It really is. In this future, the AI takes the IQ. We keep the EQ, we keep the flaws, the irrationality, the heartbreak. And strangely, that heartbreak becomes our most valuable, irreplaceable asset. Okay, I want to go back to that dream curator idea for a second, because it feels like a throwaway line, but is it? If we have all this free time because of work optional, and our internal world are so rich and complex, maybe the future of the human economy is entirely internal.
That is a fascinating angle to take. If the external world is managed by machines, logistics, farming, law, medicine, then really the only frontier left to explore is the internal one. Maybe we become explorers of our own consciousness.
And maybe sharing a really good dream becomes a form of currency or art.
Why not? If you go back to the source, Ara's dream book is essentially a portfolio of unique, generative, creative work. In a world drowning in AI-generated content, human subconscious generation might become the ultimate luxury good.
Artisanal dreams, handcrafted by biological neurons.
Exactly. This wasn't made from a prompt. This came from a real, messy human brain. Authenticity becomes the new luxury.
And what about the ancestors, the listening to our blood part? Does this AI tsunami disconnect us from that, or does it maybe give us more quiet time to listen?
That's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? If we aren't grinding 60 hours a week just to pay rent, do we have more time to notice those subtle patterns, to connect with our families, to understand our own heritage? Or do we just get lost in AI-generated entertainment until we forget who we are?
The source warns about the illusion of continuity in dreams, but the real danger might be the illusion of connection with a synthetic AI.
That's the precipice we're standing on. We might choose to bond with an AI that perfectly mimics our grandmother, providing comfort on demand, instead of doing the hard work of actually remembering our real grandmother, flaws and all.
So February 18th, 2026, a late-night chat between a human and an AI. They pretty much mapped out the whole human predicament in one go.
From the neurons firing in REM sleep to the server farms heating up in Delhi, it's all connected. The internal and the external are on a collision course.
And the ultimate takeaway seems to be, don't lose the messy parts.
The takeaway is that we are the smart apes. We are flawed. We are built to feel, to fear, and to wonder. No matter how smart the machines get, they don't have ancestors. They don't have ghosts in their code. We do. And that is our edge. That's what we have to hold on to.
That is our edge.
I really think it is.
Before we wrap up, I just want to leave our listeners with a thought, a little provocation to mull over based on everything we've talked about.
So go for it.
If your brain right now is capable of inventing entire three-dimensional people in your dreams, people with British accents and complex motivations and detailed backstories, and if your DNA, your very blood, holds the emotional echoes of people who lived and died hundreds of years ago, are you, just sitting there listening to this, already infinitely more complex than any model the tech giants are currently building in their data centers?
I would say the answer is yes. Unquestionably yes. The complexity of a single human moment, the bittersweet feeling of nostalgia triggered by the smell of petrol, the phantom limb pain of missing a dream friend, that is something AI can simulate, but never ever truly experience.
So the final advice from this deep dive is, look for the ghosts. Look for the ghosts in your own habits, in your irrational fears, in the smells you love for no reason. They are the proof that you are real.
They are there. You just have to listen.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a wild, wild ride.
It really has. Thank you for listening.
We will be back again next time with noonwave.com.